and counter ideas for taverns. Now, many adventures start off in taverns. It's an old cliche, the hooded dark stranger. I don't really like to do that. I like to start my adventures off either with an explosion or a chase scene of some kind and putting the players right into the action from the beginning. But at some point, the players will always end up in a tavern. And how do we make that more interesting? How do we give some life to the tavern? Before I go too much further, I'm just going to say I have a section of this layout which isn't painted yet, my roads. So sorry about that. But let's go on and look at the tavern itself and all the people within it. So this is the Pegasus Inn, and it used to be in a nice part of town. But as we can see from the doorman now, who are members of the Thieves' Guild, it's a little seedier these days. And at this time of year, the Festival of the Moon is on, so in the street outside the pub, which of course will be somewhere near the centre of the village, we've got some villagers having a little festival celebrating. Our noble here has a lady in waiting and a servant girl behind. Maybe she doesn't treat her servant quite so well. Just outside the tavern are some stables, and last night some local ruffians broke in and damaged the wall, so the landlord, Mr. Cleancoin, has paid some local kids a couple of coppers just to watch over the hole and make sure no one goes in there. The landlord's son, Jack, is moving the delivery which just got delivered to the wrong place. He's putting it all in the barn where it belongs. And he's not using the front door because he didn't get the key before opening time and his dad doesn't like him going into the bar during opening hours. Meanwhile, the local handyman is inside the barn, fleshing out repairs to the wall. The outhouse is getting some use at the moment from one of the local children. But be careful which book you use to wipe afterwards, because some of those books have been there a very long time. Mrs. Greenshaw is having trouble keeping her grandchildren in check. She's looking after the kids for the day, but they keep running off. The youngest of her grandchildren is quite small and shouldn't really be in the loo alone, but Mrs. Greenshaw's having trouble keeping up with the energetic children. Maybe the youngest falls in. And we all know what lives underneath sewers in villages and towns. We have a mated pair of Otyuks. Sven Hammerfeld was digging into a nice pub lunch when he got the news from the local quack that his friend isn't doing so well. Snake bites have been a growing problem in the area recently. Perhaps they're getting more organised. The bard feels happy-dappy. He's been down on his luck lately. He came to the festival to try earn a few coin, telling stories and playing his flute. But poor weather resulted in a bad turnout. And now he's really down on his luck. He could use a little charity. Meanwhile, the doc is loath to suggest to his dwarvish customer that his skills aren't up to the task of helping his patient. Erstwin is an excellent salesman and he cooks all the food in the Pegasus Inn. But as you can see, his kitchen's a bit of a mess and, well, hygiene's something of a problem. He hasn't even got around to putting his takings into the chest yet. William's one of the local lads and son of one of the customers, and he's currently taking some pails of water up to the top floor to clean them. The bedrooms at the Pegasus Inn, well, they're a little bit public, with only curtains separating the various beds. The food isn't included in the price. In fact, even the water is extra. Like most dwarves who don't live in their homeland, Eric Copperbottom claims to be a blacksmith. He isn't really. And today he's lamenting that. He's got somewhat too drunk and has fallen asleep on the table. I wonder if the Thieves' Guild might steal his purse whilst nobody's looking. Or maybe a player character might just see that out of the corner of their eye. Two nobles have just agreed a business deal. Perhaps if the players overhear that, they might learn that the deal they've just struck involves the land ownership of the pub changing, and the tenant landlord will now have to pay a lot more rent. Greta is here to negotiate the scrap food that goes unused. She uses it to feed the children at the local orphanage. She sounds like a very charitable and wonderful person doing something good for the unfortunate. Maybe she has other plans for those children. She just needs to fatten them up a bit more. Aggie isn't really a barmaid. Far from it. She's actually only worked here a couple of days. She's currently trying to work off a debt. She had a bit of a drinking spree a couple of nights ago and can't afford to pay her tab. But she's a decent enough person and was willing to work off the debt. In actual fact, she's an assassin. And this is Melbrook. She's the cousin of one of the local nobles. She's trying to get a discreet word with Aggie at the moment. Perhaps there's somebody in her family who is about to not be. Erhard is a herbalist, and it's said that if you get him drunk, any potion is yours. Here's one of the other bar regulars. Well, she's trying to get Erhard's attention, and there's a particular cure she's needing right now. Montague comes in here 3 times a week. He's quite a bitter man. Secretly, he wishes the whole world to be ruined. He doesn't see why anybody else should have a better life than him. His wife, on the other hand, is rather unhappy with Montague. But that's only because he's still not helping at all around the house. He spends his entire life in the library. And this devious character actually works with another adventuring band. She's here to sow some rumours at the moment, but there's an opportunity of work going. She might be competition for the player characters. The pub's dog, Faircliff, is popular with the locals, but he really hates the sun and has bitten him a few times now. Perhaps there's something about the sun that agitates him. Meanwhile, the landlord fastidiously cleans another tankard, and you'll note that there's no change left lying around here. He keeps it all in the lockbox, as well as a home for your horses. There's also a few beds laid out here for humans. Turns out that the landlord's quite keen to make use of the space available to help the community. A number of homeless people live here, homeless people that our lords think should be paying rent. He's put an old dresser out for them to keep any possessions in, but of course it's communal, so you won't find more than, well, a few socks and what have you. There's nothing of value in here, except maybe Aggie's possessions. She's having to sleep in the barn while she works off her debts. And there's some nice stuff in there, if you're prepared to cross Aggie.